Hello, everyone. This is Connor Gattani for Dragon Multimedia, and we'd like to welcome you to our first unexpected stream. Now, if you have no idea, the unexpected stream will be a more randomized stream where basically you never know the date. It's unexpected. So it could be based on a variety of things, comics, animation, etc., similar to other live stream shows that we have yet to announce, but it's more based in the unexpectedness. Basically, you never expect when they'll show up, but when they do, you'll have a great time. And today we have a very special guest, and I'm very happy to have him on board, and it's my great honor to introduce the one and only Jd Calderon. Why don't you say hi to the chat?
Hey, what's up, chat? Hey. So how you doing, Connery? And I don't know about how special I am, but it's all good.
Hey, you're pretty special to me. You're one of the first guests here.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
All right, so my name's Jd Calderon. I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles and Tall Tales. Thieves Quest, currently running on Kickstarter. So that's the very, trimmed down version of it. Writer, long time comic book creator. I've been creating comics since '92. I've been writing comics since I was like 12, so it's even further back, because I'm old. But just out here doing the thing.
You want to explain a little more about your past in the comic industry?
Sure. Yeah. We can go way back. So we'll start at the beginning, right? So right after high school, I got out of high school. I had a friend who went to art and design. It was school out here in New York City, Manhattan. And it was populated by all of the fantastic artists in all of New York City. And basically, I had been introduced to some people out there. We became friends. We used to play a lot of role-playing games back then, and that's basically how we bonded. And one of them said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna bring you." He says, he knew I was starting up a comic book company. He said, I'm gonna bring you a bunch of artists." All right, cool. So he brought me a bunch of people. I ended up meeting Daphne Lage, my wife, through that process. I met Matt Lunsford, Winston, or Zach and Lenningson, just a plethora of people, just a bunch of awesome artists. He literally brought me the best of his class, and the best of a couple of other classes. And what I mean by that is the years. This was the senior class, or actually it was the junior class at the time, and then they eventually, leveled up to the senior class. And then there was a couple other guys who came in from the sophomore class, and I think one guy from the freshman class. All of them very talented. Matt, myself, and Daphne all went on to do pro work. During the 90s, we did something called Tenchi Muyu. We did illustrated, they illustrated some adult comics. I wrote some of those. And then during that process, when I first started, Daphne and I, we were doing Tall Tales. And that's just something that we've been working on since '92. And it's just something it's something as creators that we grew up doing. It was like year one for us. If you pick with the current campaign that we're running, it's Tall Tales Thieves Quest, volumes 1 and 2. They're graphic, they're trade paperbacks, comprising the first 10 issues. Those two books. And if you look at that first issue, you'll see the stuff that we did in '92. 92, 93. There was stuff, and like the reason it didn't work out for us, I think we had a very talented crew. But we were producing annuals. The books would come out once a year. Mm-hmm. And it's not a sustainable business model. It didn't help that even though as an 18-year-old or as a 19-year-old, whatever I was back then, I was fairly savvy in what I was doing. I didn't know everything. Mm-hmm. And there were one or two aspects that if I knew that I could do those things, and primarily it's a reordering. If I had known that I could, go back into the catalogs and place in the first issues as well as the second issue, I think we would have done much better. It's one piece of information I didn't get, and I didn't know.
Wait, you didn't have the first with the second?
No. Well, I released the first issues, right? So let's say we released the first issues in '92, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I released the second issues in '93. Now, here's the thing: in the current system, which is Diamond. Okay, back then there was 13 different distributors, so we were going through a lot of distributors. But now we only have Diamond, and with Diamond, if you put in an issue one, 1 month, issue two, we'll go out the next month, third issue, whatever. Let's say you get up to issue four, you're like, hey, listen, can I relist issue one? If they really like you and have really strong sales, they might let you do it. But you probably shouldn't hold your breath, okay? Because it's not something they normally do for the indie guys. You'll see it for Dark Horse, you see it for Image, you'll see it for all those guys, but it's not something they'll regularly do for an indie guy. I mean, they have to really like you, and your sales will probably have to be really strong for it to happen. But back then, though, I could have just gone and been like, hey, I'm putting out the second issue. Can I relist the first? And they almost all of them would have been like, yeah, sure. And I would have been able to, because, at the time, we didn't have POD. So we couldn't print just 10 copies, 20 copies. No, we had to print 3,000 copies. And I think at that point, I was printing 6 of those books. So, it's just a lot of books to put out. And the same thing with the third issue. With the third issues, I could have relisted the second issues and first issue. So there would have been 92, 93, 94. And I think we lasted as long as 95. And then, that pretty much after that, it just got dissolved. I would like to say, well, no, I don't like to say, we all went our separate ways, but all of us stayed in artwork. One guy went into medical illustration. Another guy went into doing a movie and online graphics. Matt continued illustrating. He went on to do some work for Antarctic Press. He found some further work for both of us at Central Park Media, which was CPM. That's where we did our adult comics. And then we eventually slid on over to, it was P-Anime, Pioneer. So Pioneer Comics, they owned Tenchi Muyo. And they were the creators, and they were they would put them out. And we did a 6-issue run with them. And then we did also something called Phantom Quest Corps, which only 1 issue came out, which is kind of a shame. But, that's pretty much where all that stuff comes from. And then, but during this process, Daphne and I continued to do Tall Tales, and we did, 40, 50 issues, maybe. I don't even remember how many issues we did in a magazine. Well, it's a long running comic book anthology called Furlough. So we were in there for a long time. And then we got back into self-publishing. So we started doing that, and, we just continued. And then as time went on, eventually Kickstarter was born, and we were like, okay, what's this? And now we're doing Kickstarters and for both Oswald and Tall Tales. And we've moved into from the first arc, which is 20 issues, and that's completed. And we're now packaging together in trade paperbacks, comic book size for the first time. And that's just what we're doing at the moment. And we've moved into doing the second arc, which I believe issue 6 will probably be coming out either in November or December, maybe sooner.
What have you improved on compared to the older ones? Or basically, how did you improve based on what failed with the old strategy?
Well, see, the big difference is now is this is direct to consumer, right? Whereas before we were going direct to the retailers. So there's that separation between yourself and the consumer. Now with that though, when you're selling direct to the retailer distributor, you're probably selling at higher volumes, or at least you hope you are. You're trying to sell 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. You want to sell as high a volume as you can get. Back then, an indie publisher could sell 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 copies of a book, and you can be absolute no one, right? Because there were so many distributors, so many retailers willing to take risks on independent comics. Those things. We have some retailers who are still willing to take risks. Diamond, they've been getting it handed to them. the last about 6 months with DC pulling away from them and now Marvel. So I think they're going to open up a little bit more to independent publishers.
So this is the first time I'm hearing this. Marvel
Mm,
pulled out?
of Diamond Distribution, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're going with Penguin Random House, I think it is.
Penguin Random House?
Yeah, they're
What a
going with one.
strange company to go with. Like,
Yeah, but they're the largest book distributor. I don't know if they're in the world, but definitely in the Northeast. I mean, excuse me, the Northern Hemisphere, like from all of the U.S. and Canada probably.
mm-hmm.
And they're definitely one of the largest booksellers in the world.
I think the only reason I find it a little weird is because, again, I don't really think that comics is something they're used to.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think the reason why I find it weird is because why would you go to them? Why not try teaming up with DC and then you take down Diamond and then you
Mhm.
rule the world with one big distributor? It doesn't
Well,
make any sense.
well, the thing is that Diamond already tried that model, and it doesn't really work. The when Diamond took over, and there was all those distributors, we probably had close to, I don't know. I think the estimates were as high as 7,800 stores, maybe more. Now we're lucky if we have 1,800 stores.
Mm.
So yeah, it's by having that one um, tap to feed all of these stores, it's not big enough. Whereas you had smaller distributors and they had regions, right? And in those regions they could take care of it personally, their regular customers, and help grow those. Whereas Diamond, they're a bigger deal, and they may not be willing to take care of smaller mom and pop type operations and give them the care and nurturing that they need. Whereas a more regional distributor will work with you. Although Diamond has, they have a very good reputation of like helping retailers out. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what the case is? But we did have a huge drop off of the amount of retailers in this country, and that's affected, sales for everyone. But Marvel and DC really don't care because they rule the roost, right? They're 70% of the market, so
Mm-hmm.
they were always the whales in the room. Guys like myself and other small press guys, we were just decimated pretty much. But then we had the rise of like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and that
Mm-hmm.
gave us the opportunity to go to direct to the individuals, to the purchasers, right? So we can sell
Mm-hmm.
directly to them, to the fans. And by doing that, even though we may only sell to 100 fans or 200 fans, you know that direct buying gives us more back, as opposed to, let's say, like selling to the Diamond. Selling to Diamond, you got to give them 60% off the cover. A lot of people complain about that because they're like, oh, I got to give them 60% off. Well, look, 40% of that, 40 to 50% of that is going to the retailer. All right, because the retailer has to eat too. They have their lights, they have, they have whatever they have to
Mm-hmm.
do. They got their own system, they got their own business. And usually Diamond only took anywhere from 10 to 20% in the middle. And again, they have a business. They got to move stuff from point A to point B. So, that's the business model. So, I always found it strange when people complain about it. It's like, look, it's not just Diamond. They're not getting all 60%, giving nothing to the retailers.
Mm-hmm.
Retailers getting a bulk of that, which I understand. So it's, it's a business. The only thing I'm happy about is now, like I said, we have Kickstarter, so we can sell directly to the fans. And yeah, hey, listen, it's a great model.
Mm-hmm. What I do wonder, though, is I'm wondering with the rise of direct to consumer, especially
Mhm.
with that Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Kickstarter, not as much because, again, they are starting to crack down on some projects, which is a little mixed
Mhm.
with reactions, but especially to me, because, again, I'm not a big fan with the way they're handling things, but that's besides the point.
Right.
What it makes me wonder, though, is if more of these IPs, like the ones from other companies, will start to head to a lot more indie companies, like not just the images or the IDWs, but like
Mhm.
actual no names. Like they can actually knock on the door and actually get the IPs.
You mean into Diamond? Or
No, I mean like actual like known IPs, because
Mhm.
one of the things that I saw on a Twitter post recently was, what if this indie company did this IP, or what
Oh,
if this brand did this brand? And it does make me
mhm,
wonder though, if IDW and Image not as much, but definitely IDW with the money they're hemorrhaging, it does
mhm,
make me wonder when they go away. Like,
right.
I wonder if it will open up indies to a lot more of an audience.
Uh, you know, it might. You know, you definitively you can't say with any, you can't be definitive in saying, it won't or will or whatever. But I don't think IDW going away helps. You
Hmm.
know, they're there. They've been there for a long time, and if they go away, it's not good for the industry. I don't think it's good for the market.
Hmm.
Where they're hemorrhaging money is off of their TV and movie deals. That's where they're hemorrhaging money. They lose some money on their comics, but I'm pretty sure that's tied into that other thing. And if they shored up, if I think what they should do is break apart the two companies and have their TV thing be a totally different thing. That's where they've lost, their $250 million or whatever. That they're
I still
probably,
wonder if they would actually be interested in doing that.
I don't, who knows? I mean, I don't really know much about the company as far as the way it started or what's was the intention of the company. What were they
Mhm.
planning? Did they want to be a big art house? Because they started off really good, but now that it's Teenage Ninja Turtles, it's no, that's Power Rangers, the other one, but they have like Buffy and they have a
Wait, I
couple of
thought
the other.
Boom did Power Rangers.
Yeah, the Boom does Power Rangers, but IDW still has Buffy and Firefly. They have
Hmm.
the Joss Whedon stuff, and they have a few other properties. They have
Hmm.
the Marvel and Star Wars. They have Star Wars and Marvel books over
Oh
there.
yeah, I forgot they had that deal.
Yeah,
I
they
also
got that.
remember they did Sonic, but again,
Mm-hmm.
it did super well, and then it just fell off the earth. Like,
Yeah, I think they just lost the IP.
no, I think they still do have it. I know they're still publishing it, but
Oh, okay. It's just not probably just
I
not doing as well.
it's not selling as well.
Right, right.
And I think the major problem was that one big arc they had that it
Mm-hmm.
basically caused me to jump ship. I haven't even
Mm-hmm.
gone back to it, which is sad to say, but
Mm-hmm.
I know my artist Fango's a big fan, so there are still fans, but I do wonder how much they did lose though.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because, all right, when it comes down to that sort of thing, did you jump ship because the writing was poor, the art was poor, combination of both?
Oh, the art is always great,
Okay.
especially the crew they got.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason people like Rango are huge fans because again, that art is really good. It's really
Okay.
subpar,
Mm-hmm.
especially considering what we had to deal before at one point. But
Right.
I digress. I think the one thing that really got me to jump ship was absolutely the writing,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
padding, and a lot of questionable decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know if I don't know if you know who Theodore Sturgeon was. He was a fantastic writer back in the 70s, I think through the 80s and possibly even through the 90s. Science fiction author. And he had something called, well, there was something called Sturgeon's Law. And Sturgeon's Law basically says 95% of everything, it might be 80%. I think I shoot it up to 95%, but 95 or 80% of everything is crap. Okay. So basically, you know, look, it's unfortunate, but most of the work, you may fall into that category, right? So a lot of those writers that you see, they fall into that category. They're not that good.
Hmm.
It's my job. I've said this before. It's my job and every other creator's job to get into that 5%. And it's not
Oh, no
easy.
doubt.
What? What?
It's no doubt that it's very hard,
Yeah.
especially since I am a little bit of a writer myself. So it's
Hmm.
absolutely, I can
Right.
definitely back you up on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy, but it's our job to try to get into that 5%. Now, I do feel that there's stratas in that. Like you get your 5%, and that's like your A plus material, right? Those are your Alan Moores, your Frank Millers, and your Mark Millars, and and those guys, right? Jeff Lemire's, and a bunch of names in there. There's a bunch of guys, a bunch of names in there, a bunch of people, not just guys. And then you have probably another 10 or 15%, and that's your B plus, your BB plus guys. You know, I could rattle off a few names, but I don't want to because I don't want anybody to get offended or whatever. Like, oh, this
Mhm.
guy's my favorite person, and it's just
Mhm.
all heard about it. But but regardless though, BB plus, that's not bad. That's not a bad spot to be. There's a couple of writers who I see that they normally, I feel, in that position, and they push up into the A. They push up into the A plus material. Like they've done that level of work. It's just that they have to work really hard. You could tell they're working hard at it, and when they work really hard, they get into that higher strata. It's just, but they settle down to B plus, B, somewhere in that area. And then there's just your C plus, there's like your C plus area where the stories might be serviceable or just good. They're filler stuff. You're like, okay, you might read it and you say, okay, that wasn't bad. This, just a regular good comic, nothing crazy. And then you just set it to the side as part of your collection. And you move on. Oh, and then there's just the D's and the F's and all that stuff, and then that's just the whatever that is. And there's just a lot of it. And unfortunately, you see that in TV, you see that in film, you see that in comics. And it's our jobs to just try to push it hard enough to get us into the higher stratosphere, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But we got to try, and that's the thing. Sometimes I don't feel people try hard enough, or they're not even trying. They're not even cognizant of the fact that of the level where they're at. And that's one of the things. A lot of people complain about navel gazing. Once in a while, you do have to look inward.
Mhm. Absolutely great.
Mm.
So now that we're almost half an hour in, I definitely do think you want to showcase a project of yours, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Tall Tales, Thief Crest. Let me show these off. Take these out. These are two. Like I said, these are the two graphic novels. This is the first one. We already did a campaign for this. It's already out. This is part of this campaign. This is volume 2, right? So you can get them both. If you don't already have the first one, you can get them both. They're both available on Kickstarter. Right? We're chugging along. We're about 16 days in. Um, yeah, we're 16 days in. We're a couple $1,000s up. We're well past our goal. So this will fund. These books will be coming out. So if you want, you can go check it out.
Hmm.
Thieves Quest. Okay. How does Daphne put it? Daphne's my partner. She's my better half. She's my wife. She's my buddy. She's co-creator and the artist on this book. So the way she likes to describe it is what is it? What if Lord of the Rings met Disney? Because the genesis of this is Robin Hood's Disney, and I guess Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons and all that good stuff. When I was a kid playing those games, and we have our crew. We have Ravenwood, we have Pandora, we have Clea, Gabriel, Ralph, and Silverman, and so excuse me, let me pull this down. This is an what I like to refer to as an inaction figure, although he does move. He does pose just a little bit, right? He's this is a vinyl toy. It's a vinyl figure, so he's available also in the campaign. So if you want to order one of these guys, and this is one colorway of him. This is black and white, and his hair is red, but we have like full color of him. We have blue glow, green glow. We have one that's all black and white, and we have one that's full color, and he's like this, so he says like the blood on his blade and all that jazz. But it's a lot of fun. This is Silverman. He's one of the characters in the story. So, yeah, go check it out.
It's really cool. How did you get the figures made anyway?
Man. All right. There's only one real way to do. Well, it's funny. It's different today. Today you can get them. You can get one-offs. A few pieces done relatively for a few $1,000s. You can probably get it because it's a sculpting. Once you get the sculpt done, you can get them digitally printed. When I did it, that was still the future. So when I did it a few years ago, it got sculpted in China, very beautiful sculpture, and then they made a casting of it. The casting got made into these figures. We probably did about 1,200 of them, and it was very expensive. It was like the cost of buying a car, a nice one, paid in full. So yeah, So that's how we got it done. Basically, it's just cash. You know, cash is king. You know, if you have cash, you can get it done. But today, like I said, you can find an artist. They can do a digital sculpt for you. And you can have them digitally printed. That's something I'm looking forward to doing in the future with some of the other characters, because we had designs of doing Clea and Ravenwood and Ralph, all the other characters. The only thing that happened was we had ordered all these pieces. This was in 2008, and then I got all the stuff. I had spoken to the distributor that we were working with at the time out in California, and he was like, "Man, if I'd have had these last year, I'd have sold out." I was like, "Ah, damn it!" And what had happened was, is we got the toys. 2 weeks later, the economy tanked, and here we are. We're still selling these figures, but they look great, and we've sold a bunch of them. We just produced a lot of them, so we're still selling them all.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely something you always have to take into account. So, being a creator myself, I absolutely understand where that big burn of overproducing and then the audience doesn't come as quick. It's definitely a big burn at times.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is I researched that market for 2 years. 2 years, it was hot. I mean, hot. The vinyl toy scene, from I think about probably like 2003 till about 2007, was hot. I mean, like the guy told me, he says, if I had these just a year or two ago, I'd have sold out completely. You know, and that's just the issue. You know, when
I'd argue there's a resurgence now, especially since I
Mhm.
know Ethan was the one who absolutely got people who were interested in comics interested in figures. But there were also, as much as I hate to say it, pop vinyls were got there was a big boom there.
Yeah.
And again, I'm usually more of a plush guy.
Hmm.
But again, I do when people were this big boom of well, not plushes, but vinyl figures. It was absolutely. I feel like we are seeing a renaissance.
Yeah, we're starting to see. I'm starting to see more of them come back because they're basically art figures, they're art toys, right? So it's not like you're just buying it. Like, when you have a pop. See, here's the thing. I'll pull down Mr. Jon Snow. All right, Mr. Jon Snow, pop guy, right? You buy these, they're $10, $12, whatever it is. They're cheap. They're obviously mass produced, and they look cute. I like Jon Snow,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's cool. You um, but this, I think, had a huge hand in destroying that scene because these guys came out and they're cute, they're adorable. People are like, oh, that's wow, that looks really good, right? And then people take them, and you will get just about. They would do just about everything. I have pops from. I got this guy because he was a gift, but I have the Dark Crystal, right, and Labyrinth, right, two of my favorite films from when I was a kid. So I have all of those pops, and if they were to make more of those figures, I would buy more because I'm just a fan of that thing, and I like the way they look, and I like the way that just the way they look.
Mm-hmm.
But the art scene with vinyl figures, those figures run anywhere from 35 to $150, depending on the complexity of the figure, depending on the size, because vinyl is not cheap to make. Um, so yeah, but you're starting to see more art figures come out, I think, because some of them are 3D sculpted instead of being made out of vinyl. And they're doing limited quantities, but when they're done in limited quantities, they're also very expensive as well. They're going to be $150, $200 because if the artist is going to paint them on top of it, they're going to they're just doing a very limited run, and you're getting an art piece, you're getting an art sculpture basically at that point. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something. Like I've had experience with first four figures and Hot Toys,
mm-hmm.
and Hot Toys are expensive, but again, they're very collectible and very well done. First
Right.
four figures is similar, but again, I have a bit of issues with some of the pricing at times,
Mm-hmm.
especially with some of the decisions. I feel like they could go a little cheaper without having to sacrifice too much.
Right.
But again, I do see where you're coming from, where the market became a lot more collectible,
Mm-hmm.
especially comparing it with some of the cheaper toys that I see at the aisle nowadays. Like, it really is a complete like difference between both of them. It's strange.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, but hopefully at some point, like I said, I'll be able to make more of these guys. And also, if I knew then what I knew now, I would have probably made this guy half the size. I'd have probably made him only about that big.
Mhm.
Because one, it would have probably been a lot less expensive to produce him. But also just the amount of space that he takes up, and I think, yeah, I just think it would have been more cost effective to have made him that size. You know, but he looks mad cool like this thing.
Mhm.
So hopefully at some point I'll be able to get some of the other ones digitally created and put out, even if it's just limited quantities.
There's always a market for it.
So there's a market for it. That's true. I mean, listen, we have some rabid fans for Tall Tales, and they were. I would probably sell 10 of them, you know, at a higher price point. We'll
Yeah.
see at some point in the future.
Everybody has a big fanboy inside them. No
Mhm.
matter what it is, there's something that's gonna come up.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what are you planning for the future, by the way?
Well, we, other than doing constant Kickstarters and Indiegogos, um, well, we have the current Thieves Quest Volume 2 coming out. We have, and then once we fulfill that, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing currently. I'm fulfilling my last Oswald Chronicles campaign, and that's for these books right here. So that's for we were just passing through issues 1 through 4,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just got in a box from the printer. Hopefully, it'll have everything I need to just to put all the final touches on this campaign. And I'll be able to mail everything out, get everybody their rewards, and then we'll have this one in the can. Then once Thieves Quest Volume 2 is done, so that's this book. Once that one is this campaign is done, we'll send that out, and then I'm gonna be doing the first Oswald trade paperback, and that'll come out, and that'll be for Passing Queens and Making Homes, and I think that'll be about 120 pages. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that'll be about 120 pages, and that'll come out, and yeah, and then that'll be that, and then we're also I'm also part of some other thing with Liberty Distribution, where I'm together with a bunch of other creators. Hold on, hold this up. Where we all got together and we produced some books, right? So I have, the Oswald Chronicles, right, and then we have Tall Tales
Mm-hmm.
here, right? So those are 2 of the books. We have Hybrids, God's Hand,
Mm-hmm.
Shield of the Interceptor, Only Death Can Save Us, Hero About Zero, An Evil Revolt, and The Well Keeper by D. Fish. Awesome book, awesome book.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But yeah,
So, what's your relationship with Arrow, by the way?
I'm good friends with Randy Zimmerman. What more do I need? That's all right.
I really should contact him now that I think about it. Since again,
Randy's a buddy.
Baron's
So yeah.
great too, but again, I always tease him with the werewolf joke. He hates
Gotcha.
me for it, but again,
Yeah,
he loves me at the same time.
right. No, but no. We're just part of a group of creators, because there was, there's Unstoppable Comics in there. There's the Wolf Pack. There's Dreamweaver Press, which is my company, which has the Oswald Chronicles and Tall Tales, and we all just got together. We're doing this thing with Liberty Distribution, where hopefully in the next week or 2 we'll be able to announce what we're really doing, and we're going to be going out, being distributed nationally. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Once it's released, people will understand what we're doing. They're going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
"What? Are you people crazy?" But yeah, it should be a lot of fun though.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the future. As far as I'm just continuing the Oswald Chronicles. So for me, it's I'm currently writing the final story in that. Uh, I don't know what to call it.
Chronicle universe.
Yeah, saga, whatever it is, of his life. I'm writing the final story. It's probably gonna take me another month or so to finish it. And even then, when I say finish it, I'm writing it in a format because I'm writing literally when I'm coming home from work. So I'm on a train, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hold on, let me pull this out. And I write in a little book just like this, right? And I am writing long form by hand.
Wow.
Yeah. So just so you know.
Well, it's
Right?
definitely unique. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I write like that, and that's my first, my first draft, obviously. Then I go in and I transcribe it, into the computer. Just type it in, and
Mm-hmm.
that, then you're at that point I'm refining in the story obviously as I go, and then what I tend to do is I tend to print it out, and I set that sucker on the side for it could be months before I get back to them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's actually I would suggest that for any writer, try to give your stories room to breathe and give you time to forget about them so you can move on. So then when you do get back to them, you can look at them with fresh eyes. So you can go back and do a hard edit and be less involved, you know, because sometimes it is difficult to see the forest from the trees. When you're really deep in there, sometimes it'll be difficult for you to see your mistakes, whether they be in plot, dialogue, anything, you know. So you have to really just give yourself that time to step away. Because I mean, when you see the stuff that's coming out of Marvel and DC, those writers, I've done that type of work where you just got to constantly produce, and you
Mm-hmm.
sometimes don't have the time to do that, to step back and really do the corrections you need to do. And you just got to sometimes just crank. Sometimes there's a beauty in that in and of itself. You understand, where you're just constantly churning out work, but you have to be mindful of what you're doing even then, because it's very easy to like get lost and do subpar work. We see
Mm-hmm.
that all the time. But you do see some guys, they're killing it and they're producing consistently great work. Frank Miller did it for years, John Byrne did it for years, Alan Moore did it for years. There's plenty of examples of guys who just constantly on the grind. Walter Simonson's Thor, you name it, man. There's so many great runs in comics. It can be done. It can be done.
One of the weirdest things, though, is that a lot of these creatives, at least some of the ones that do subpar work, always
Mm.
love to go on Twitter. But the weird thing is, you think that since they have so much time to have break on Twitter, you think it would also give them fresh eyes to look back at their writing because they had that break. So when they come back, even
Mhm.
with them producing a lot of work at the same time, they would still at least have that break period to fully relax their mind. But I don't
Mhm.
know if it's working or not, or if it's even happening.
Right. One would hope, right? But that's all you can do for them. I mean, I don't know. Listen, I stay away from Twitter.
Hmm.
I go on there and I will promote and retweet. I'll get on there for 15 minutes and I'll be promoting and retweeting, and that's about it. And I'm not engaging in any conversations. I'm not talking to anybody really.
Yeah.
If I want to engage another creator, I prefer doing it like this, right? I prefer
Hmm.
doing it, having a conversation online where we can talk, we see each other. If we disagree on something, we can just talk about it, as people, not just
Absolutely.
not just as just words on something where you don't care about the other person. You understand? I find
Hmm.
it very callous to say. I've heard of a lot of things that are said to people. It's very callous because I'll tell you right now, the things that are being said to other people, you wouldn't say that to their face most of the time, because some of the things I see that those are smackable offenses. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, get a nice meaty paw right across the face offenses. I mean,
Oh,
that's how I
tell me
see it.
about it.
Right? Like if you were in my face, you wouldn't say that to me. I guarantee you wouldn't say that to me, right? And if
The-
you and if you are, maybe we'll both go to jail that day.
yeah. I mean, especially since it was funny story. So in my feed,
Hmm.
there was there was this channel I follow. It was, I believe, something to do with one of the comic book events, like Great Comic Day, something like that.
Okay.
And for some reason, the moron who's running the account literally tells a random nobody who asked a question,
Mm-hmm.
they basically told him a lie.
Okay.
And I was just shocked. Like, seriously, that's how you gotta promote yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you gotta lie about everybody
Mm-hmm.
just to make yourself look good.
Right.
And it definitely, especially considering that there were some indies who were part of that event. It's not even like, I don't mean like an event like Fall Punk. I don't mean that. I mean like it's a free comic book day type event.
Okay.
And it just makes me wonder, why bother? Like, again, I know it's very hard, especially when you got Triggerfinger, to say something what you view as right, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately it just doesn't work that way because not everybody's gonna agree. And worse, if you pull the trigger and someone like me sees it, how is that gonna work out when I tell you no and you invite me to this event?
Mm-hmm.
No, well, not event, but you get the idea. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you want to print your book for this event? And
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say no.
Right.
There have been many events I've been sadly having to say no to,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially for the future because the management or whoever is doing social media is not doing a great job. And it's sad because, again, I always want to be open minded. Everybody does. We all love
Yeah.
comics, but again, I just can't. Especially being a brand ambassador, I just can't risk the brand when they just gotta lie to my face or lie about other people. It's just sad.
Mm-hmm. So, Doris just said hello. Hail, Doris. How you doing?
Hello, Doris. It's nice to see you here, and
Yeah.
thanks for joining the stream.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely will behoove everyone to try to get along. You know, you always see these things pop up, these memes. You know, is it be nice to one another, be kind to one another, and so few people ever stick to those. You know, I mean, we're just creating comics. We're just trying to have fun, and that's pretty much all we're trying to do. So that's how we should try to do it. You
One of the things I do want to bring up is,
know. Mhm.
what do you prefer for crowdfunding? Do you prefer Kickstarter? Do you prefer Indiegogo?
I prefer.
And
Go ahead.
has it changed any in recent years?
I prefer Kickstarter. It's where I started. It's where I get most of my success from financially. Um, yeah. So, but I like Indiegogo. I like the fact that you can end up with the in demand at the end of it, and people can just continue ordering. I've used it as a store. Once in a while I'll get that email. It'll be like, "Bing, we're sending you some money," and I'll be like, "Oh, what the hell is that from? Why is Indiegogo?" Oh, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's right. The store is still up," and I'll go in and I'll fill out that order and ship it off. So it's actually cool in that regard. But as far as but the thing with the big drawback to Indiegogo is not as many eyes are on there. The It doesn't seem to push and promote the smaller campaigns the way Kickstarter does, and because of that, you have to bring your own market to it. If you don't bring like a strong crowd, you're just gonna die on the vine. On Indiegogo, I've seen it happen tons of times. I myself, I go on there. I only raise a few $100. It feels like I'm getting kicked in the teeth each time, But in overall, I've raised a few grand, and it's a few grand that goes back not to me, but it goes back to the artist. So it allows me to just make a bit more content. But conversely, on Kickstarter, people seek stuff out. People are on there actively looking for campaigns,
Mhm.
looking for new stuff, new materials, some new creators, and that's just the thing. The crowd is just much larger. So because of that, you just have longer, more sustainable success. Um, but it also goes to say that on Indiegogo, you have guys making tons of money. You know, You have a lot of campaigns making $18,000, $20,000. You have your outliers, like EVS and those other guys, making $500,000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the 1%. And there's the same thing on Kickstarter. You have a few, people making that type of money. I'm more of like trying to get into like, how do I get into that 10, 15, $20,000 crowd, right? Because that's something, if you do a few of those a year, you'll be fine, as a creator, you know. There's always the Brian Politos of the world, making $250,000 or $400,000 per campaign on Kickstarter. Good for him. And just trying to build up to that. But yeah, but as far as it changing, I don't, for myself, I haven't really seen anything change. I mean, there's been some functionalities that have improved on Kickstarter, but that's pretty much about it. I know people are talking about, all this other stuff about people. I don't know what's going on. I just try to.
Basically, what happened was Kickstarter hired this new person to basically oversee all the comic projects.
Right.
After the last one was basically laid off because of the union thing. And then what happened was she was caught with her pants down because she was blocking a bunch of creators for no reason. And then she privated her tweets.
Right.
Which, as a comic ambassador, it's why I'm very mixed. Because, again, it doesn't matter who you block. Again, I have blocked people in the past. But, again, you're supposed to be a brand ambassador for Kickstarter. Even if they're people you hate, you should not block them. Like, it's different from, like, a Dragon Multimedia where, again, you're advertising projects and then there's some people you don't want to chat with, or it's one person that's always nagging, trying to spoil the day by basically posting on your post something that's not appropriate, so you have to block them. But again, brand ambassador of a big company where you basically, your job is to make sure that the comic projects are good. How are you going to expect it to go well when basically the brand ambassador is blocking people? And then she had to private her tweets.
Right.
Me and Michael were never blocked, but again, I've seen a lot of proof that people were blocked. And they don't even have to be labeled anything. Some had no reason to, and some were just minding their own business as well. Like, they weren't affiliated with anyone or anything. They were just on their own and still blocked. No reason whatsoever. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to account for like what people are thinking and why they do things when they do things, right? This is stuff she might have set up with her account 5 years ago. Who knows, or 2 or 3 years ago before she had the job, and didn't realize, oh yeah, this is part of my job. I need to change this, and so things might have not, that might have not, just now maybe she's figuring that out. It's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's affected me. I don't think it's affected a number of other people that I know personally. I'm sure it has affected some. I just don't know who. And the only thing I can say is just, hopefully they'll figure it out and they will do the right thing. And what I mean by that is just be professional. Just be professional. Just, treat everybody equally, which is what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to be treated as a person, right? We all have the same wants and needs pretty much. We need to sleep. We would like to be loved. We would like to be liked, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. We need to eat. We all like to make a little bit of money and enjoy our lives. And hopefully, they'll get to that point where they can be like, okay, look, let's just live and let live, and let everybody have a good time.
Again, it's why I'm very mixed on Kickstarter, but again, I do support projects on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter. It's why I have a Kickstarter account to help support projects, even if the whole reason I'm not a big fan of Kickstarter, other than the other stuff, is that the failed payment thing. Because as someone who has had failed payments on a different account in the past, it is a big issue where you get the goal, but then payments fail. It's the whole, we went to Indiegogo because it's not even political or anything. It's just, we prefer the model of you pay it up front. It's more secure because it basically secures the funding, and there's no chance of failed payments.
Right.
Which again, a lot of creators have an issue with the failed payment system.
Hmm. Um. Wow. I've done. I think I'm up to 22 campaigns, maybe 20. I don't know. Sometimes I forget. But I've done a lot of campaigns, and throughout all of those campaigns, I could probably count the amount of failed, um, reward, money coming in, probably on one hand.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Out of all those campaigns, out of the hundreds and hundreds of backers that I've had very few people not, you know,
Hmm.
you not have their credit card processed properly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like I'm closing the door to Kickstarter at all. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I've been supporting a lot of products on there, so there might be a chance that again I might try it for one project, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
maybe when I get into later projects, especially with like the bigger ones where it's all combined or with a collab with another creator, I might.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think it's just obviously it's the fear of the failed payments, it's the fear of getting a product rejected for no reason, especially when you're following all the rules. And
Yeah, I mean that that's definitely a concern. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I've only ever had an issue a couple of times, and that's when I put my goal at $1. That's the only time I've ever had an issue. Because,
really, what happened?
well, the first time, you know, they had stopped it, and I think I wrote something to them, and they let it go through, and I was like, all right, fine. And then the second time, though, they explained to me what the issue was with me putting it $1, because they feel that it's like a goof campaign, that it does that you're not taking it seriously, right? And I was like, no, it's the exact opposite for me. I put it at $1 so that people will know that this campaign will go through. Even if
Mm-hmm.
just one person pledges, it's going to go through. You understand? The books are going to be printed, the books are going to be shipped out.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That's why I did it like that.
It still doesn't make any sense, because especially when, again, I don't know why you would have to message them saying, "Hey, why are you suspending my campaign?" When that's literally free money for Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially since the thing's gonna go through automatically. Great, now we got money secured.
Mm-hmm. Right. But, I mean, I did it. But now what I do is I just, if I want to do something that's small, right, I'll do it at $100 or $250 or something. And then that just goes through, and they just let
Mhm.
that go. So, but that's the one good thing about Kickstarter. With Indiegogo, you have a limit. You have $500. You have to hit that. And even though they allow you to
Flexible funding.
do the flexible funding where you'll get that money regardless whether you make that number or not.
Mhm.
With Kickstarter, it's a hard number, but you can make that number $100, so you can achieve that number. At least most people can. So there's like that weird check and balance thing between both. So
Mhm.
yeah.
This is probably going to be a little bit of a joke question, but
Mhm.
what do you think of Zoop?
I don't. You know what I mean? I mean, I've heard of them. I've seen the platform, and I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. I mean, what is there to think about it? It's not open to the public. I think at the moment, like I couldn't just go in and make a campaign, right? So, and
The
then
way
they
they're
had it.
doing it is, I checked because again, obviously, before we decided Indiegogo, obviously we're checking out all the options. We were checking out
Mm,
Figure at one point since they're an investment platform.
right.
Basically, the idea is that you have to message them with the campaign. Hang on, let me pull it up. But
Mm,
if I recall correctly, you have to contact them with the project.
right.
Let's see here.
So basically, they just want to like, you know, look at the project before it gets put up.
Yes, I also find it funny that they weren't sued by Viacom yet, because Viacom had a game
Mm,
called Zoop. and I think about it. So I find it a little funny
Right.
that, but again,
Viacom is probably going to wait. They're going to see if they become something larger, where they can take a bigger chunk out of it.
perhaps.
That's the scary thing. It's just like, oh, well, they're nothing now. They have nothing. They don't have any money.
Hmm.
But they'll wait and say, oh, now they make a lot of money. Okay, now let's get them.
Hmm. So let's see. I'm on the page right now. Let's see. Born in 2018. Da, 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 da. Stand for community. Diversity. Da, da. Where is that section? I'm checking. Okay, that's weird. There's a login section. That's so weird. Where the heck is it in client terms? No, that's different. That is so weird. I don't know if they closed it. I know that there's a. That's so weird because I remember earlier when the site just launched, they had the section where they explained how to do the campaign,
Mm-hmm.
which is strange, but it still says here on the who we are. Basically, the idea is that they handle the admin and business side of things,
Okay.
but again, it seems like a very closed method of. It definitely is a very closed method of doing campaigns, and I don't 100% see it doing well.
Right.
Because if you're closing it, that's, again, I don't see how the success will be long term. It's like if, basically, imagine if Kickstarter's even more closed than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
It just wouldn't work out at all.
Right. Well, no, also Kickstarter has the advantage of being the first one in the market, so that's why
Mhm.
they have such a large audience, right? The problem with Zoop is that they're coming in third, right behind, IGG,
Oh,
right? So,
that's not even third, because again, I know Kickstarter has Kickstarter. Indiegogo had Tobuscus when he was doing his big campaign because that's
mm,
when everybody started knowing it, and then the comics came a little later and
right.
also blew them up. Fig had Psychonauts too, but what does Zoop have?
Mm-hmm.
Looking on their projects, it's a lot of indie stuff, kinda, but there's a lot of big names too because
Right.
there's currently, remember Andy Zeon, Cornerman, like those are the active ones. They're the only two,
Mm-hmm.
and neither are really that interesting, even with the stories. Because again, it just seems uninteresting because the art and the stories, like the stories are decent to subpar, and the art, some of them aren't really as good. But
Right.
again, that's always personal preference
Yeah, that's always
and very few projects. So, but
right.
another thing that's also strange is instead of learning from Indiegogo as well with the, because I'm checking on the website now, so let me pull up an example. So obviously being the last in the market has its advantages at times.
True, but I don't think so in this case.
But let me show you why it's a little bit of a mixed thing. So this is the page for random comic I chose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got the name, the artists, the information thing, there's the goal, but there's no in demand.
Right.
They're after Indiegogo and they don't even have it in demand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge problem because the thing is, let's go to a random campaign here.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can add the campaign, everything, and you can get your awards. But the thing is, because they don't have the in demand at all, because as you can tell, the plus is gone. Instead, there's this funded thing. The
Right.
problem is they have the disadvantage of Kickstarter not having the after funding, but they also have the disadvantage of Indiegogo times where they still have to do promoting because unlike Kickstarter, Indiegogo, even Fig, since Fig is now owned by this investment company,
Mm.
Zoop, nobody knows who they are, and even if you are, the biggest problem is, even if you were interested in the book, you wouldn't be getting for Zoop. So that's a lot of lost money because you're basically dealing with lost income because you're basically telling people to do the research on their own.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the problems with a growing, platform. You got to
Mhm.
get the word out, and that's the thing. It's like what's going on with what is that thing called? What's that thing? All the they're taking all the writers to that other platform. They're giving out a lot of money.
Substack.
Right, Substack. Who are they? When
They're
have you ever heard
basically
of them?
it's a Patreon like company.
Right, but that's just it though. Like whoever heard of these people? Now we're starting to hear about them because they gave all this money to all these different writers
I
to
actually
come
heard
in.
about them before
Oh,
because
okay.
here's a little bit of a story. So Patreon is basically what everybody is a little worried of what Kickstarter would be with how they're very stingy with some things.
Mm-hmm.
And people were going to other platforms like Subscribestar, and another one was Substack.
Right.
So obviously it started growing a little bit, and obviously that's where a lot of the popularity came from, at least from what I've heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I figured out about it because it was the Patreon model that got people interested in the service, and then it got them the money for when they're able to get these creators. And I'm not going to blame you at all for not hearing about them because, again, it still is the Patreon model is definitely a lot smaller of a base because it's mostly
Mm-hmm.
web comics.
Right.
But it is, I do believe that if the industry backs off from the tactics of basically bullying creators for doing it, I believe that it could become a really helpful spot. They just need to stop bullying other people for doing it.
Mm-hmm. Now you're talking about which one? Indiegogo?
Substack,
Substack. Okay.
because again, Indiegogo, I'm pretty sure the industry doesn't care. Because again,
Right.
they got Kickstarter, they got Zoop, they got Indiegogo as well. Now that I think about it, so
Mm-hmm.
who cares?
Right.
But Substack is the one they're going after right now.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
again, you were saying?
the only reason they're going after Substack is because they've basically given all of these top name writers, you know, a new platform to make money. Right? Like they've given them a bunch of cash. And they say, here you go. And what the writers are calling them grants, meaning they were given a large sum of money to just produce work. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the question I would have is like, how many books? Because they're charging like $7, and I guess you get this content per month or whatever, kind of like Patreon, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
question is that for that $7, what are you getting? Are you getting one complete comic, two complete comics, three complete comics? If you get three complete comics, you can at least say, well, that's reasonable in comparison to what you're paying for, a regular comic, right? So if you're paying $5 for a comic and you're getting, three of them instead of one, you know, maybe they can build on that. But are they just producing one comic? If they're just
Here's
producing
how
one
I believe
comic,
it works. It's creator, I believe the creators decide it, if I'm
mm-hmm,
not mistaken. Because if it's not Kickstarter, but if it's like Patreon, it would have to be creator decided. Let me
right?
double check if I'm right.
Yeah, but the thing is is the sustainability, right? Because if you have, I don't know, 10 different creators and you're paying them $7 a pop, right? That's $70 a month. How many people are going to be willing to put that up every month? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now, if you're getting one for one book per creator, but if you're getting 2 books, 3 books, 4 books, maybe you'd be willing to do that. And even then, how many of these creators are going to bring over those audiences from Marvel and DC? I like
Mhm.
James Tinian, but I'm not going to go to Substack to get any of his work. I'm going to wait and wait however long it takes for him to print it through Dark Horse or Image or any of these other companies. And when I get a printed book, that's what I'm going to buy because I prefer print. I sell a lot of PDFs when I do my Kickstarters, and I appreciate my digital fans, but my personal preference is print.
Oh,
So,
no doubt.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay, so I'm checking it. They updated since when we first. It was when I first heard about it and saw it. It changed it a little bit because now it's more newsletter type.
Right.
So it's basically you're paying a certain amount a month for a newsletter, and then you also get as much content as they upload, basically.
Right. So yeah, so basically that's it. It's just like it's up to the creator to create as much, work as they can. And the question is like, okay, so let's say, money is finite, right? I consider like whatever cash I get from a Kickstarter, I consider it fuel, right? It might as well be coal. I just throw it into the burner and it just burns as hot and as bright as it can, right? For as long as it can. And you just got to get more coal and just throw it in there, right? So the more you have, the more power you can create, meaning the more content, right?
Okay, so looking at this one creator, Chip Zdarsky, he has 3 levels. Monthly, which is all the posts full of comics and fun and videos. So it is basically like Kickstarter. No, not Kickstarter, Patreon.
Patreon.
Sorry, I've yet to really use Patreon as much as I do not, as much as I have even Kickstarter and Indiegogo. But the idea is you pay a certain amount a month. You give creators the tools to post whatever they want, and then they offer multiple tiers. With this one, it's monthly, annual, and extreme annual. Where basically the annual, you get all the above plus signing and variant opportunities. And the extreme variant, or the extreme annual, which is Chip Nuts, is everything plus exclusive Zoom hangouts and 2 copies of basically a rare variant that will only be available here, and remarks. So it's another direct to consumer. I am very interested to see how this works, though, because I do believe there is a great market for this, especially this more newsletter type. But again, I do think it needs to be organized at least a little better, especially with discovering, because this is the current version of the website, and I'm going to share it right now, but I believe it is a little bit subpar, but not as subpar as something like Zoop is. So this is Substack.
Right.
And it's mainly a place for independent writing. It changed it, so it's basically started a newsletter, build a community, and make money from subscriptions. But here's the problem. What they're advertising is basically a newsletter service. When most of the people who are going for comics are coming for content stuff like a Patreon. But that's the problem. If it's going
I don't know if Connery froze or if I froze. Did he fall out? It's possible. According to my thing, I'm still running. Hold on. Let's see how am I going. That's weird. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he froze or if I froze. We're still live. Connery, are you there? Hello? It's weird. I'm used to running these things, and I'm used to. Now it's just me again. Hi, how you doing, everybody? All right. We lost the host, so it's just me. So yeah. So let's talk about comics. like I said, once again, we got Tall Tales Thieves Quest currently on Kickstarter, so go check that out. I think Connor is back. There we go.
Hey, my apologies. So what happened was apparently something knocked out my Wi-Fi.
Gotcha.
And it completely took me down, but luckily I was able to recover. So,
gotcha. Yeah, it was funny. I was like, where'd he go? I thought I froze.
I think I might have been taken down by the Patreon bots. They don't like that I'm talking about Substack. So,
yeah. They're like,
what I was bringing up is obviously the idea of they need to figure out a good way to promote, because even with Patreon, there's a little bit better of an interface.
Right.
Even if it's just like, it gives a brief summary, which is a nice summary, but how's this going to advertise to people? Like, you have to literally read it anyway, so why not try to figure something else to help? Because even then, Patreon has that layout and a couple of preview posts. It's nice,
Right.
but again, I just think it just needs some improvement. That's all. It's not like a Zoop where they have to build everything up. I think it's obviously something that they just need to fix some things, and then they would probably be a lot better off, at least to get a lot of people in.
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything else. You got to give the platform time to build.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess they all have problems in the beginning, but it's also the thing about visibility. You know, how are they advertising? Where are they advertising? How are they attracting their fans?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Zoop, they're just trying to, they have the gated community, and they're bringing in, I guess, big name creators who could bring in a decent amount of fans. They had that one campaign that raised 44K, so that's a decent amount of money that they raised. But it's I think by closing it off, they're going to seal themselves off, because, all right, let's say if I had a campaign running on there and I brought in 40 fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they bought my product or whatever, my books from there. Great. Now they're saying, oh, but it was only 40 fans and they only raised a couple $1,000 or whatever. It's like, that wasn't really worth our time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, though, is if you have 100 different people doing that and they're all bringing in 40, 50, 100 people each, right? Now all of a sudden you got 2,000 or 3,000 people on your platform, as opposed to just having this one creator bring in a few hundred, right? Or maybe even 1,000. But if you open it up to more people, 1,000 people might bring in 10,000 people, right? Or 15,000 people, 20,000 people. Whereas you have this one big name creator who might only bring in 1,500 people or 500 people or whatever. You understand? The thing is it's all about numbers. The greater your numbers, the greater your success, probability of success. It's like anything else. So you just have to, just constantly keep moving forward with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I forgot what I was going to say there for a second, actually.
That's all right.
Especially after the Wi-Fi knocked out my power, so. Let me just reorganize everything. So, is there anything else you want to show off, or?
No, man. I mean, like I said, I showed off Tall Tales. I talked a little bit about the Osmo Chronicles. Yeah. I mean that's pretty much what I got. I mean, it's just the campaign. Go check out the Tall Tales.
Do you want me to pull up the campaign, by the way?
Yeah, if you want, you can pull it up. You show it off a little bit.
Okay, let me pull it up, because it is definitely something big I do want to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, I'm just making sure that everything's working on my end first before I share again. Especially after the
Gotcha.
Wi-Fi knocked me out.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Show off some of Daphne's art. That's so this is from the first volume. So this is just so you can see. It's all black and white. It's all pen and ink. You know. The funniest thing about these books, I think all of these books, today the way we letter books, we letter them in a computer. We get them in a Photoshop and Illustrator, and we letter the books. These were all lettered um, by gluing the suckers down on the pages. So, you know, those suckers are permanent. So, there you go. This looks like a nice, good look. That's from volume 1. This is volume 2. See, so they all look in there. Yeah. And the one really cool thing is if you were to look, let me show this. In volume 1, you look at the first issue, right? You know, Daphne's inking and her illustration have improved. See this, and see that. And I think if we move it just a little bit further along on the 3rd or 4th issue, you can see where inking is getting cleaner, the lines are getting tighter, right? And it's just, you know, the work just starts to get cleaner, and then as we move on, right, you can see her work gets cleaner still, and it's getting tighter as she moves on.
You ever thought of doing it in color?
Eventually.
Because
Eventually.
I do know you're doing it with one of her other comics, I remember.
Yeah, her Ego Raven comic is in color, yeah. Yeah. But that she's doing herself. If we do this, we'll probably hire somebody to color it for us. You know. But if you look at this, I mean, see, here's the thing: is like, I love pen and ink work. I love looking at this type of work. Color, you know, when I have stuff like this for Oswald, you know, it looks great. You know, so it's always that thing. You know, do you want to see it in color? Do you want to see it in black and white? You know, the thing for me is when Marvel was printing, I guess they're called the Essentials books. They're Essential line of books where they were like about that thick, and they were all black and white. So they were the comic, and they were cheap. They were printing them on newsprint, and they were like 10, 12 bucks. And you get a big, thick book, and to see John Byrne's work from the X-Men and even the Fantastic Four in black and white was just incredible. You know, and to see a lot of those guys work. So John Buscema's work in black and white is just incredible. You strip away all that. I mean, I hate to call it crappy coloring, but you know that the coloring back in the day was just like, you know, it was all done on newsprint, and it was okay, but it can't really compare to what's being done now on the computer. But the pen and ink work that those guys were doing was just incredible. You look at just some of that stuff without any of the color, and I just think that stuff sings so much better. So, you know, but that's my opinion. So it's not for everyone. Not everybody likes black and white.
I like a mix of both, because again, I absolutely see why people love, especially with how cool some of the inked pages can be at times. But one of the biggest things is I like the choice. It's why I basically like if they have an option to colorize black and white films, but with an asterisk. Only if you include the original.
Right.
If you basically try to erase the original black and white, that's when I have a problem. But if you do a cheap coloring and have it as an extra, I'm cool with it. I like to see changes and stuff.
Yeah,
Because,
I mean, I think film is a little different because, you know, with anything else, you know, with a director who's very mindful of what they're doing, in black and white, you can achieve certain effects in film, right? Like there's certain moods and things you set, right? Where just like in color, you know, just like when you're doing a color film, you know, you look at somebody like Guillermo del Toro, the way they utilize color in their films, it means something. Not every director does that, but in Guillermo's films, those colors mean something. You know, when you see, you know, certain characters that they come in and there's certain colors in that scene that signifies something within that scene. There's some kind of mood he's trying to evoke, or just something he's trying to tell you on in a subtextual type of way, right? The same thing with black and white, you know, film.
Mm-hmm.
With black and white in comics, right? With the way it's done, depending on who it is, obviously you see somebody like Bernie Wrightson doing an illustration, right? And you see their stuff in black and white, you're like, oh wow. And then there's a lot of modern illustrators, the way they illustrate, it's very open. You know, they're very low, they don't put in the blacks the way they used to, because they're accustomed to having the color artists come in and fill in all that space and do their own thing. So, you know, it just depends which school you're from. I'm old school, so I like pen and ink, black and white work, you know. But it just depends where you're at. You know,
I'd say most are in between nowadays.
Mm-hmm. It depends on the artist, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some artists, they have like a very open style, and that type of style sometimes requires color. So it just depends.
Okay, so here is your campaign. I'm pulling it up now so I can maximize this one, and then so this is Tall Tales Volume 1 and 2 trade paperback.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to talk about as I scroll down?
No, hold on, let me see something. Can scroll down with you. Okay, cool. I mean, okay, so you know, this is our marauding group of adventurers here. You know, this is Ravenwood, Clea, Silvermane, Ralph, um, Pandora, and Gabriel. It's sad that I almost forgot her name. But Ravenwood is what we call a Creston Knight. He's basically a lord, but he's troubled. He's a berserker. You know, so whenever he gets into a battle, he goes a little nuts and he goes overboard. He also wields a very special sword. His sword is not made out of steel. It's a red ruby crystal, and it seems to be able to cut through just about anything. It doesn't chip. It doesn't anything. They don't know anything about it really. And then a good portion of what that sword is about is revealed in the second arc. So it gets to see how the different things it can do. And then they're just a group of friends from the same town. Clea grew up with him. Silvermane also grew up with them. And then also Ralph is from the same town, and they just grew up in the same town. Ralph was taken in by the local sorcerer, Hullux, who was a very, very famous sorcerer. And he's his protege. Ralph is a wisecracking, you know, goofy type of guy. Silvermane is a thief who's like a local to them. Clea, she's a healer. She's part of an order where they worship what they call the Mother Talus, and Gabriel is a bard. So yeah, and then what is it? All right, I'll read this off because this will just puts it all together for everybody. Meet Ravenwood, Pandora, Clea, Silvermane, Gabriel, and Ralph, friends and warriors in search of the fabled Great Seal of Iberian, stolen from the possession of their benefactor. Along the way, they encounter all sorts of people and creatures, some good and not so good. A reluctant prince, a dangerously ambitious earl, a manipulative teacher, a bard with dark secrets, a knight with a tarnished past. In their quest, they become unwittingly entangled in a bitter war between rats and trolls, and soon they must learn their own characters, or they must soon learn what their own characters are truly made of. So, you know, that's the crux of it. It has a few pages there for everybody to look at. So yeah, so please go check it out. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy yourselves.
So I'm noticing the figure is there as well.
Oh yeah. He's available on some of the levels. He's also an add-on. He's also available as an add-on. That's one of the things they did with Kickstarter. I was very excited about that. Now they have add-ons, which is cool. So you don't have to have like 10,000 levels for everything. There you go. Those are the different colorways we have for the figure. So you can see we have, the normal, we have, well, these are the two glow in the dark. So blue glow and silver glow. Blue glow, there's only 100 of that guy. So the green glow, I think there's about 250. I think. I'm not sure. I
So
know there
just
was
to
more of this
ask,
one.
so with the glow in the dark, why is it
Mhm.
like all the colors have gone away? Because I noticed that. Because I
Oh,
know
because
there are
it's
some
just
ways to do glow in the dark with other colors, but
right. Um, Honestly, I couldn't tell you. We just wanted them to be glow in the dark,
uh,
and it just ended up like this. But these suckers, like when you get them in a dark room, they glow. I
mhm.
guarantee you, they glow. Uh, and then that's Silvermane in black and white. That's Silvermane in black and white with the red hair and the blood on the sword, and that's Silvermane with just the blood on him. So
The
yeah, yeah.
comic is definitely for mature audiences, I'm guessing.
It's the way we look at it is if you can anyone who can watch Lord of the Rings. So if you have kids and they can watch Lord of the Rings, right? If they can watch Lord of the Rings, they can watch this, or they can read this. So I would say anywhere like 10 and up, 12 and up, 8 and up, depending. On the reading level.
Mm.
Mhm. You know.
All right, so it was great having you,
Thank you, Connor.
and
It was a blast
mhm,
being here.
and it's great to chat with you again after last time. I'm
Mhm.
very happy to have you streaming with us. We're always keeping the door open if you ever want to come back.
Cool,
And
cool, cool.
as we transition back to the
Mhm.
standard layout, we're going to fully transition into what we do. So,
All right,
once
cool.
again, we'd like to thank JD for being
Thank you,
here.
sir. Thank you.
And would you like to be around for this part, or
No,
would you
go
be okay
chill, man.
with?
I want to see your stuff, man. I saw it the last time. I enjoyed it.
Mhm. So, without further ado, we're going to explain what we do. So, if you have no idea, obviously, if you're watching on JD's channel, hello again. And if you're watching on the Dragon Multimedia LLC, because I do see that there is one person currently on Twitch, hello.
Mhm.
And if you have no idea, we are Dragon Multimedia LLC, and we do a lot of projects. We have two upcoming. One is one we recently announced today, which I am also going to pull up. And let me see if I can get the file. Okay, let me see if I can get the file correct. So it's one of several, and let me make sure I can pull it up. There we go. And the first one is a little animation called Sandalston, which we are doing. It's directed by my buddy Gio, who also knows the Wild Mew, hence Studio Mew Media Group. And it's his project. He's working with a bunch of creators, including me, Studio PLKS. We're both from Oscar Not Reborn, while also helping out with. We also have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have. Let me double check. We have Studio PKLS, as mentioned before. We also have GML 394 helping out with action scenes, and it'll be animated using Wrapper Offline. And this is what it looks like. Obviously, it's a very specific style. Obviously, it has a little bit of the old Go Animate style to it, being from animated Wrapper, but it is very similar to what we were doing with Oscar Not Reborn. So we were super happy to fully elaborate on that style after the success we had, and we fully want to bring it to a new audience.
Nice.
And another one is our big one, which is obviously Shift, which is one of the bigger projects we're doing. And Shift is a comic completely created by me, unlike Sandalston, which is created by Mew and being more of a collab. This one is more absolutely, it's my project since I'm creator and project lead. And also, I wrote the original outline. And because of that, I was able to get a little bit of experience with writing outlines, and we were able to really elaborate. So what I'm going to pull up now is the current version of the pre-launch page, because it has changed since last time people have seen it. And let me pull it up. And this is the current version of the pre-launch page. There's two variants. One is the original, and one is the variant. I'll play the video a little later. But this is our comic we're doing. It's called...
It's not up.
Oh. Looks like the little share thing needs to be showed up. There we go.
There you go.
And yeah, it's by default that it hides itself. So this is Shift Issue 1, which we're crowdfunding on Indiegogo, and it's a 23 to 25 page comic book. It's written by Michael Oden, with art by Ringo, coloring by Laura, lettering by SK, and we also have another artist named Brandon Zarla who's doing a mini comic, but we'll get to that a little later. And if you have no idea from before, in the World of Shield, Sunny is a normal girl as far as normal, at least on her world, is at face value. But she has a secret. She's a rare being with the ability to transform into more powerful being, or beings, technically. At the heart of her ability lies a question. What is the shifter? And what do they want with her? This is Sunny, and this is her first shift form, which is her spider tar form, called her strings form. And we also added some new freelance stuff. We now have a full 2-page. We also have a mini preview of our mini comic called Endless Possibilities, which is a more comedic take on events in the story while also being its own thing, also set in the same universe. And it really is... This one I'm fully writing as a writer, and it's also drawn by Brandon Zarla. And I'm also going to show a page before we get to show the trailer. And we are actually proud to announce that we are launching at the end of this week, and we actually have some cool things to show. So this is a fully lettered page. And let me put it up. There we go. So this is one of our fully lettered pages of an action scene. And it's fully lettered, fully colored, and everything. Nice. And you'll be seeing a couple of these on the campaign when we launch at the end of the week. We're scheduling it for August 29th release, but we are chatting with some people because we don't want to spoil anything for later on, but we are planning a bit of a pre-launch party, and we're chatting to see when we can do the date, and potentially we might be launching early. So stay tuned to the Twitter for that. If you like what you see from what we've shown of Shift so far, we'll play a trailer at the end of the stream. Feel free to check out our social media, Dragon Multimedia LLC on YouTube, Dragon Multi LLC, Twitch, Twitter, Picardo. You can also check us out on Facebook, Connor Contend Dragon Multimedia. And JD, where can they find you, by the way?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt, all under Jd Calderon. And you can also find me on theoswaldchronicles.com, talltalesonline.com, and on YouTube with my own show, Indie Comics Explained, at Jd Calderon or Indie Comics Explained. So you can find me at either.
Right, we'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we'll end you off with a little trailer for our comic Shift. And we'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we hope we'll see you on the next stream whenever that is. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Connor. Thank you,
Bye
everybody.
now.
Have a good one. Take care. Don't forget, Kickstarter, Tall Tales. Go get it.
Shapeshifters. I have no doubt you heard of them. Everyone has at one point. Werewolves, vampires, the million variations we have yet to discover. The idea of living alongside those creatures is fascinating. But what if you are one? My name is Sunny, and I am a shifter.